Good morning, everyone. Well, it's been a long time, hasn't it? It's so nice to be back preaching again, and what a great gospel passage to preach on today. But before we get into today's gospel passage, allow me first to share with you all a story. Now, I've shared several stories with you all about my experiences at the seminary. And after reading through today's gospel passage, one particular experience came to mind. Now, at the seminary, each semester you take about 5 or 6 classes. And of course, the most stressful part of every class is the dreaded final exam. Now, while all final exams are nerve-wracking, there was one final exam in particular that was more nerve-wracking than all the others. The most nerve-wracking final is the final exam for your first semester of Byzantine chant. While all other tests were a standard blue book or essay response exam, the test for Byzantine chant involved simply sitting across the table from the Byzantine chant professor and chanting a hymn right in front of him. Now, our Byzantine chant professor was no ordinary professor. He was a legendary psalty and widely regarded as one of the most knowledgeable professors at the entire seminary. In fact, we seminarians used to say that if there was any one professor who could teach all other subjects at the seminary, it was this Byzantine chant professor. And though this professor was very kind, in the classroom he was very serious. So to chant a hymn in front of this professor would be like shooting a basketball in front of Michael Jordan. It would be like throwing a football in front of Tom Brady. Needless to say, this final exam was very daunting. Now, being my first semester at the seminary, I must confess that throughout that semester, perhaps I did not practice my Byzantine chant as much as I should have. In class, I sat in the back of the classroom. I did not volunteer to sing a verse or anything like that. So now here I was at the end of the semester wanting to make up for some lost ground. And when it came time for the final exam, what did I do? I looked through my Anasasimatarion, or my book of hymns, and I chose the most difficult hymn we went over that semester to chant for my final. So for the 2 days before the exam, I spent hours and hours practicing this hymn. I called my dad all the way in California to help me. When I told him what hymn I had chosen, he said, "That's a very hard hymn." And I said, "I know. That's why I chose it." He laughed and he helped me as much as he could, even though 2 days was not nearly enough time to prepare. So now here comes the day of the final exam. I got to the classroom a little early for some last-minute practicing. My professor entered and he said, "Kalimera, Christo, what hymn have you chosen to chant today?" I replied, "Kalimera, professor, I've chosen Istoros tis Mathites." He responded in disbelief, "Istoros tis Mathites? Istoros tis Mathites," I assured him. "Well then," he said, "please begin." Now this hymn takes about 10 minutes to chant all the way through. It's a very long hymn. So nervous as I could be, I began. I started strong. The first minute went well. Then right around the second minute, things got a little shaky. And then at minute 3, disaster. At about minute 3, I completely lost the tune. I lost my place in the music notation, and I just stopped. The room was silent for what felt like an eternity. I continued looking down at the music, pretending like I would start again, but I knew I was finished. And I thought, great, I have now failed this final exam for sure. But after a few seconds of silence, I looked up at this professor. And my professor said to me, "Bravo, Christo, you have a great voice." I was shocked. In this moment of failure, my professor showed me mercy. He could have torn me apart for slacking off all semester and for wiping out on the final exam. But instead, this professor showed me mercy and even bestowed upon me a very nice compliment. A compliment that carries me to this day. With just a few words from this professor, all my fears of failing and all my concerns were wiped away. Words can be a very powerful thing. It is so important how we use our words, what we say with our words, how we impact others with our words. In today's gospel passage, we see a very interesting exchange of words between Jesus and the Canaanite woman. This strange woman chases down Jesus, and out of desperation, she begs him to heal her daughter. Jesus tests this unknown woman by objecting to her initial pleas for help. He says to her, "It is not fair to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." Now, this is just about the strongest refusal one can give. It is just about the strictest way to tell someone no. Now, if this interaction had happened in our modern age day of entitlement, the Canaanite woman probably would have responded, "How dare you? I deserve to be helped. You owe it to me. I demand that you help me right now." But in this instance, we see the opposite response from the Canaanite woman. The Canaanite woman, instead of responding with argument or arrogance, responds with patience and humility. Instead of argument and arrogance, she responds with patience and humility when she says, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." The Canaanite woman shows us here the proper way to seek God's mercy. She shows us to seek his mercy humbly yet boldly, to seek it knowing that we are undeserving of it, to seek it through persistence, through dedication, to not be shaken when our plan doesn't go as intended, to seek it despite any setback. And Jesus now, in turn, responds with some of his most beautiful words, in my opinion, that we see in the Gospels when he says to the Canaanite woman, "O woman, great is your faith, be it done for you as you desire." And it says then that her daughter was healed instantly. What a compliment to receive from Jesus Christ himself. Great is your faith. A compliment that immediately wiped away all pain and worry from this woman. The Canaanite woman called out to Christ 3 separate times today, and the first thing she sought before anything else was his mercy. And after some boldness and persistence, she and her daughter indeed received abundant mercy. With his words alone, Jesus heals this woman's daughter who is so terribly and severely possessed by a demon. The woman's faith, her patience, and humility were so amazing to Jesus Christ that with his words alone, he granted everything that this woman desired. We see today the power of our words. We see how we can use them to impress even Jesus Christ. We see how Christ uses them to heal. So let us think a little more about how we use our words. Will we use them for prayer? Will we use them to build others up? Will we use them to encourage other people, to compliment other people? Would the words that we use invoke the mercy of Jesus Christ? Let us remember the example of the Canaanite woman today. The woman who impressed Jesus Christ with her words alone. The woman who exemplified a faith that even Christ himself was amazed by. The woman who more than anything else sought mercy. He said to her, "It is not fair to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus answered her, "O woman, great is your faith. Be it done for you as you desire," and her daughter was healed instantly. Amen.